I'm Heather.
And we are
Masterpiece Astrology.
We're here with a special episode for you this week to talk about the Scorpio Full Moon, April 29th to 30th, and we're here in Tucson, Pacific Standard Time. It's a big full moon. It's the end of a cycle. Pluto just stationed retrograde, and this full moon happens right after the end of the Pluto-Uranus square, which has been an ongoing event affecting us all individually and collectively from June of 2012 through March of 2015 exactly, and then it's been within orb until now. But when Pluto went retrograde, that square kind of came to an end. It represented a big end of a cycle, profound change.
Yes, and the full moon is at 9 degrees of the sun being in Taurus and the moon being in Scorpio.
Yeah, and so Scorpio and Taurus are a polarity of powerful. On one hand, we got that, we were talking about it earlier, just Taurus likes to really value and call attention to how important the material world is, and it really wants to consolidate resources.
And it's about sensuality, security, stability, and it's counter twin Scorpio is about death and looking at the darker side of things, the unseen, the mystery. And I feel like Taurus is a little bit afraid of that other side.
Yeah, for sure.
It likes to hold its own, where Scorpio likes to kind of delve into the underneath of everything going on.
Oh, no doubt. And I think, when we have a full moon, we're always called, we're reminded of the sign opposite the moon. So the moon is in Scorpio, the sun is in Taurus. For many of us, like I'm an Aquarius, Leo is the opposite of Aquarius. And so Leo is a sign that, you kind of have a love-hate relationship with that opposite sign. So
yeah.
with Scorpio and Taurus, it's like a love-hate thing.
Yeah.
Taurus wants, like the structure, and then Scorpio is like that force which represents, it's that birth and re-death, and it's the seed consciousness. Like if you think about the death of winter, the seeds survive.
Right.
The birth, the potential to grow and have this whole new beautiful life is there, even though it's completely killed off.
It's the phoenix bird,
right?
That explodes itself and dies in the flames, and then is reborn as the dove.
So, like Queen Elizabeth is like the epitome of Taurus because she's a Taurus. So imagine somebody like the Queen, somebody like that contending with Scorpio. The ugly sewer energy. And not to ding the Scorpio people, it's just that mass consciousness expresses itself, unfortunately, a lot of time with the shadow. And the Scorpio shadow is just unpleasant because it's the personal unconsciousness and that awareness of the power of death and rebirth. And people are afraid of that.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
They are. No, you're fine.
Right, but I just feel bad because Scorpio does get a bad rap, and this is a full moon in Scorpio. So let's focus on what's great about this full moon in Scorpio.
Right. Well, and also, this full moon is a lot with the Scorpio energy to do with our fears, our deep fears. So earlier in our previous video, we talked about the ego and how that is sort of really, you have to pay attention to what's going on to know whether you're coming from an ego place. This is the part where you realize that the ego is formulated out of fear, and that is the theme that we need to allow ourselves to see that fear and heal from it, because these wounds usually come from our childhood, our deep memories and our subconscious mind, and they need to be brought up to the light so that we can deal with them, and then we can progress in a more positive, progressive way.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because the fear is real, and the full moon is kind of bringing up it's bringing up a lot of feelings of insecurity, because the week before the full moon has been all about power. There's been so much power at play with the way the planets have been constellated that for all of us, we've been able to easily access power, come into contact with it, use it to benefit ourselves and others, or hurt others. So that has made a lot of us feel really insecure as we contend with this awareness of, wow, maybe we felt our power for the first time, or maybe we were overpowered. So this full moon may bring up a lot of insecurity about that, and yet the lesson really is about the self, healing and healing the ego, the will, because this power energy is really about will. When people misuse power, it's an abuse of ego and will, right?
Yes, and then the whole lunar eclipse that happened back in
January
January was a lot about
February.
ourself. Yeah, February.
Sorry, it's Valentine's Day. It was the Portland one, the lunar one. Sorry, it's the lunar. It was the lunar eclipse on Valentine's Day. Is that what we're talking about?
No, I was talking about the one
January.
that happened in January, the last day of the month.
Okay.
The Leo Aquarius.
Okay, that was the big polarity of self and others, right?
Yeah, so that had to do with our self-worth and self-empowerment, and this is the square to that kind of brings the energy together because revisiting it in a whole other way.
Yeah, in a way that we've kind of, again, had our own Phoenix through the fire experience with the Aries Capricorn, okay? And also we've all had a big Phoenix from the ashes experience living through this Uranus-Pluto square, which really just kind of came to an end for this cycle. I mean, nothing ever ends, it's constantly, but it really is kind of closed, so we've kind of learned a lot of lessons about duty and responsibility, what I need to defend or what we need to defend, crises about control, you know, and then coupled with that is just speaking up, advocating for self and speaking up about oneself. Right,
and releasing that fear-based thoughts that come into our head, our insecurity, releasing it and realize that it's all about perception. And it's really like this full moon is a big reset button and cutting away unhealthy patterns. It's a very big full moon for manifesting, so really think about, even if you feel like you're in darkness now, you kind of have to push through that and kind of think of what you would like to create in your world, even if you are, you know, in the depths of despair.
Even if you're really despairing,
Yeah, it's important to really realize that this is just a moment in time and that there is a good future, and what would you like to create yourself? Now we have this blank slate. What do you want to create with that? Because it is a very strong manifestation moon.
Yeah, and the manifestation is, again, we talk about manifestation and there's a lot of stereotypical associations with that, like we're going to like bring in money or the boyfriend or whatever. Manifestation can also be about invisible internal strengths or invisible internal things that are... I'm a social worker. We help link people to what we call resources. I help link people to their invisible resources, which are invisible strengths. It's like our powers within ourselves that help us get through difficult times. We all have them. So this full moon really helps us get acquainted with that part of our will and ego that's a very beautiful, pure essence that has a lot to contribute to the world and is using its power and strength for benevolence. You know, This is like Defense Against the Dark Arts.
Yes.
Kind of spanking that stuff. There's really powerful rage, potentially, with Pluto squaring Aries. A lot of rage and impulsiveness with the Aries squaring the Pluto and Capricorn, which is might is right. That big square that just kind of came to an end, we're all kind of stunned by it and recovering from it and learning these really powerful lessons because we've all been remade by it.
Yes.
And the full moon is kind of lighting that up for us. Even though it's like Taurus and Scorpio, it is squaring lunar nodes in Aquarius and Leo. It might seem unrelated to that Pluto Aries square. Capricorn Aries Pluto Uranus square, and yet it is not. This full moon is bringing it kind of together in our consciousness and our psyche.
Very good.
And just one more thing. I hate to make this like a soliloquy, but see, the thing is, the North Node is in Leo. And the axis of the node squares the actual full moon. It creates a fixed cross. That's why we say it's a good time to manifest. North node, higher self, higher ego. This is the time, this full moon, to bring in and manifest our best possible self.
Know your worth.
Yeah.
Know your worth and really just focus on what is working.
Yeah, again, where there is resistance, just respectfully, just let it be.
And also with this full moon, Saturn is sextiling the Scorpio.
Mm-hmm.
So it is creating some sort of stability to create a structure, and also responsibility, personal responsibility.
Right. Correct authority for oneself, correct ability to identify where you want to be dutiful and where, you don't have any duty to anybody but yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So that's the full moon.
I think that node thing was really good, what she talked about.
It's an important thing to keep in mind right now. It's really key because we have a chance to really grow. That's how we're going to take the power of this full moon, because as we're recording this, we still have a lot to see how things are going to be playing out.
Yeah.
So by the time we get to this full moon, we'll have learned a lot about our sense of responsibility and just, I think, that power of might versus might is right versus, the rage and impulsiveness. That's like this collective energy we've been seeing with this Uranus Pluto square. It's been really rough.
It's been a really rough month, and
well, yeah, this last 4 weeks, I gotta say, has been really, really hard for a lot of people. But it has, again, since it's been all about Aries and Capricorn, it's been all about the Pluto-Uranus square. I really think back on why it's just been so unpleasant for everybody I know.
It's a lot of ego, and it's a lot of trying to fight and just not getting along.
Right, it's really been, I think a lot of people I've spoken to have expressed so much frustration. It's just been so hard to communicate about relationships. And not just for a few days, for week on end.
Weeks on end.
For weeks on end, right.
Yeah.
And so the last, I think, 4 weeks especially, just have really, it's been a struggle, folks.
Right, and I also want to bring up, too, is that the unsung hero underneath all this energy is this beautiful Neptune in Pisces, which has really been we haven't talked a lot about it, but it's always been present in all this energy, and it's very it's trining the moon, so it's actually asking us to find compassion, forgiveness first, and then you find the compassion. And then Jupiter is also a part of that as well, and asking us to look at the bigger picture and knowing that whatever we're releasing right now, it's okay, you're going to be okay, everything's going to be fine, and really just trust and believe in yourself and believe in the changes that are happening, and that everything is happening for a reason. That whole saying about you can't see the stairs, or you can't
the forest for the trees.
No, you can't see the whole staircase right now. You can just see the first couple of steps, because the rest of it is in dark. But just know that you will make it through that, and just trust and allow, and that underbelly of having just this faith, even if you can't see the whole big picture right now.
Yeah, that's well said, because that really is the hidden strength that we have, is Neptune in Pisces trining the Scorpio energy, Jupiter in Scorpio, faith in Jupiter.
And it's really the most beautiful, illuminating light underneath all this crap that's been, taking over. Yeah, no, for sure. A deep amount of faith. And a tremendous amount of spiritual healing is available to us. And it's, again, healing, what you said about compassion. We have to have so much compassion for where our ego and will has led us astray. And how can it not? We live in a world of willful energy and people, and we have to get stuff done. So focusing on that watery support that we have with Neptune and Jupiter can really help us heal and, feel okay about that part of our will that's maybe kind of run afoul of... It's just been kind of overtaken by ego and game playing, and not coming from an authentic place. Yeah. Just more of a hurt, bruising place, and that's why you have to realize that even if you don't know why you're behaving in these ways, but these are sort of our deep-seated subconscious belief systems that are creating these scenarios, and you do create your own world. So the conflict is in this, that's been in this in your life is really just kind of showing you where the cracks are and where you can improve and what needs to change. And most of the change does not come from other people or circumstances. It comes from you and you bringing the change to it. So wherever your cracks are,
I like that.
just kind of work on filling them up with better. Put some flowers in there. Grow some flowers in those cracks.
Yeah, mend them, and also, or like you say, put flowers in them. Sometimes cracks don't have to be like. There's different ways to look at cracks.
There is, because there's a sunlight that comes through cracks, right? I mean, you see the sun, and maybe that's just like, wow. All right, I've been looking at this situation all wrong.
Right, I have cracks in my sidewalk, and I got all these beautiful flowers coming up. I got petunias